Hey, what's going on, everybody? Willis here with Coffee Studios, doing a quick little first impressions on Lies of P. I've been playing the game for about 6 or 7 hours now, something like that, and I really like it a lot. If you know me personally, you know that I'm a big fan of the Souls formula, but I wanted to be able to talk about it in a more general sense. I am going to compare it to some of the other FromSoft games, but I'll talk about what it does in a unique way as well. I do think it stands on its own 2 feet in some really neat areas that I like. First impressions, it plays kind of like a combination of Bloodborne and Sekiro. So if you want just Bloodborne out of it, it's not really just Bloodborne. There's a lot of parrying, a lot of blocking. Dodges feel more like a quick way to avoid fast attacks, and anything that is a combo or something you need to learn a parry rhythm to, which if you've played Sekiro, you understand what I'm saying. I do think that that is a cool idea to combine those two. It is a little jarring, I guess, if you've played both those games, because you look at it and you think Bloodborne, and then when you play, you're like, it plays from a combat standpoint like Bloodborne, but the parrying system and dodging is definitely more like Sekiro. So there is moments where I guess my brain gets clouded and is like, I don't know how I feel about that. But I do enjoy it so far. It is challenging. I mean, personally, I play a lot of games like this. I like Souls-likes. I enjoy that rhythm and that challenge. So I've made good progress in that 7 hours I've played. But I think if you're newer, or you don't play all the Souls games, or maybe you're just interested in it because you like the aesthetic, it is a challenging game. I'd say, depending on your build, maybe it's a little different. I went strength, or mobility as they call it, I believe. I just tend to do that when I play the Souls games. As you can see from on screen, I've got a big wrench, and I have the detonator arm. And I just really like playing that way. Not everybody does. But so far, I've been able to build around, get some souls here and there, or they call them ergo in this game. I have had to reset a few times on bosses, but never super long. I'm stuck on one right now, but that's just the Souls formula. I think if you were looking for a Bloodborne 2, it's not exactly just Bloodborne 2. It does a lot of unique stuff, like you can craft your own weapons by combining different blades with different hilts. There's the whole arm crafting system. There's a lot of interesting durability things where, like, you basically have a grinder in your elbow and you use that to sharpen your blade, and you have to keep doing that if you want to keep your weapon damage up, and certain weapons have more durability than others. I don't know how that affects if you play Dex versus Strength, but I'm interested to see how that goes. What else is there that I wanted to talk about? Oh, right. I do think that the Stargazer system works really well. I like that anytime you get the quote-unquote bonfire, you immediately can teleport and everything. You don't have to go back to the hub world if you don't want. Another neat thing I noticed is when you're using the Stargazer system, if you've completed a quest, for example, I had a quest very early on, I'll talk vaguely, where I had to bring a woman who's sitting in a window back something that she wanted. And a lot of other Souls games and stuff, you'd have to remember where everything is and how to get there. It leaves a little marker on your Stargazer map or on the menu of areas, and it's like, oh hey, if you wanted to do this, you have to go back here. Or if you found an item and you're like, I don't know what to do with this, it'll mark it on your map and be like, hey, you should take this here. Maybe you'll find something. It kind of kills that traditional Souls immersion a little bit, where it's like exploring around and stumbling upon something. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it directly. It depends how much later on it makes certain, I don't know if there's like a true ending or certain secret missions and stuff, it makes them a little too easy to figure out, maybe. I'm not sure. Again, I'm only part of the way through. I definitely think it's a cool idea, though, and I'm curious to see how it affects later game stuff as well. So far, the story's really good. I definitely think that if you've read Pinocchio, it's not directly like that, although obviously inspired Lies of P and everything. But I wouldn't sit here and say if you're a Pinocchio fan, you should go and check out Lies of P. It's definitely a retelling. As for how it feels compared to something like Bloodborne, it feels very much story beat-wise Bloodborne-esque. I mean, obviously from the aesthetic, I'm not really talking about that, but similar tone, the way characters talk and deliver their lines. It's clearly very Bloodborne, although they do throw some curveballs at you here and there, trying to throw some humor in and lighten things up. They definitely take the sort of Victorian era look, but also the like Machina-esque aspect. Like if you've ever seen Metropolis, that old movie, it kind of feels like that at times, tonally a little bit. And it's fascinating to watch, and it's definitely an interesting game. I'm curious to see where it goes going forward, because it's just kind of starting to pick up at where I'm getting. And I do really like it, and I hope that it can pull through. My only really critiques I have about it, which are very small things, while I think it's cool that you have 2 belts and you can carry a lot more items because of that, I have found myself getting frustrated a few times where I just forget in the heat of combat, you know, which belt I'm on. And I've gotten a lot better at it, and I think that that's not something that will be a long-lasting complaint. But it's just something I thought was worth noting, that I think if you were a newer player, you would definitely find that frustrating if you weren't used to the multitasking of a Souls-like. I also think that, as I mentioned before, it's very Bloodborne-esque. There's definitely a few moments where I'm like, that's just Bloodborne. I won't say what, but I just sit there and I go, oh, that boss has, it's just this boss and this boss shoved together. And it feels very similar. It's still cool, and it still has unique mechanics. There's a specific boss that I'm talking about where it feels like the movesets of ones from Bloodborne, but they add in sort of this like pulse technique thing where it can shoot lightning out. Similar, I guess, to the one underground boss in Bloodborne, but different. Doesn't work exactly the same. And so I guess that's really my only big complaint, other than the nitpicking little things like that. I do find that a lot of the story beats are definitely inspired by Bloodborne, and a lot of the boss moments sometimes feel like they're standing on the shoulders of giants, which there's nothing wrong with. Again, I just feel it's worth pointing out that I do think it stands on its own 2 feet a lot, especially in certain aesthetical moments. While it does take from Bloodborne, it also... how would I describe it? It also does its own thing. I'd say dim-lit, kind of castle look, you know, Victorian era is definitely there. But the whole Machina aspect, a lot of clock-looking things, that's definitely very unique to its style. It's not as Bloodborne-y. It doesn't feel as... Bloodborne feels grungy. This feels more sleek and clean, coated with grunge, I think is a good way to say it. And I apologize if any of my thoughts feel incoherent. I just really wanted to throw something up and talk about the game, because I'm really liking it. And I hope that, you know, the negative things I have been saying, they're not that huge of a detriment. The game's still amazing so far. Things I've noticed, personally, and I'm pointing out. I do think that my issues with it, story-wise and leaning on Bloodborne a little bit too much-wise, will be fixed as the game goes on. I notice it kind of move away from leaning on Bloodborne as a crutch, almost. Like, early on, I definitely feel that way. But as you walk through later areas and stuff, it's clearly inspired, but it's starting to do its own thing, and I'm definitely not against that. So I'm really excited to see where it goes from here, to be honest. I really love the game. Oh, combat. I should talk about combat for a minute. Other than the parrying system, which I talked about at length earlier. I love the weapons. Strength weapons have been really fun to use for me so far. There's some really unique dex ones I've run into, too, that even though I don't use them, I think they're mechanically interesting. I absolutely love the arm system, combining your own arms so that you can get a different offhand weapon that functions differently. I think that's really cool. I love the mine one. I love being able to put a mine down, fight an enemy, and as the other ones rush in, I can kind of dash back and just have it detonate and kill them. I think that's really cool. There's another electrical arm that I really like that kind of stuns people and opens up for a parry. That's really awesome as well. I think you'll easily find a playstyle you like, and I definitely think the game, fairly early on, about 4 or 5 hours in, really starts to open up and let you experiment with the items you've found, especially with crafting. I do think it's really cool that if you like the way a certain hilt swings, but you like having a higher strength blade, you can just chop up the weapons and put them together and make a weapon that you want, that fits exactly what you want, you know? And I think that's really cool. So that is definitely one of my favorite parts of the game, is being able to mix and match stuff. Or if you find something you like just straight up, you can just use that. You don't have to mix and match. It doesn't feel like that min-max, quote-unquote, is necessary for you to do well in the game. I'm sure maybe later game it makes stuff easier, but it doesn't feel like you have to do it. So yeah, that's my fairly spoiler-free review. Hope you all enjoy. I hope to get a full review with full thoughts, really polished out, maybe in the next 10 days if I have the chance to finish the game. So please subscribe and stick around. I have in the description down there a few other places you can check me out, a few other YouTube channels, some other projects I work on if you want to support me. And other than that, just thanks for listening. Hope to have more Liza P content out soon. I also have an AC6 review coming, and definitely want to talk about Final Fantasy 16 at some point, which I finished earlier in the year. Take care, everyone. Much love, and I will see you all soon. Bye!